Rizal in London. After visiting United States, Rizal lived in London from May 1888 to March 1889. He chose the English city to be his new home because of three reasons. In his mind, I want to improve my knowledge of the English language. I want to study and annotate Morgas Sucesos de las Islas Filipinas. And I believe that London was a safe place for me to carry my fight against Spanish tyranny. Rizal was on board the SS City of Rome. While on board, Rizal entertained the American and European passengers with his marvelous skill of the yo-yo as a defensive weapon. After a while, Rizal arrived at Liverpool, England on May 24, 1888. He spent his marvelous night in Adelphi Hotel. Inside his room in Adelphi Hotel, Rizal wrote to his family. He said, "Liverpool is a big and beautiful city, and its celebrated port is worth of its great fame. The entrance is magnificent, and the custom house is quite good." By the end of May, he found a modest boarding place at number 37 Shalcote Crescent, Primrose Hill. Rizal became a boarder of the Beckett. In London, Rizal came to know Dr. Reinhold Frost. Dr. Reinhold Frost was the librarian of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Authority of Malayan Language and Customers. He called Rizal a pearl of man. He was impressed by Rizal's teaming and character, and he'll be glad to recommend Rizal to the authorities of the British Museum. But one day, Rizal received news from home, both bad and good. One morning, Rizal received a bad news from home. There is a persecution of the Filipino patriots who signed the anti-friar petition in 1888. Persecution of the Calamba tenants, furious attacks on Rizal by Senators Salamanca and Veda in the Spanish Cortes and Wenceslao Ritana and Pablo Fisid in Spanish newspapers. Meanwhile, a friend of Rizal, Loreno Viado, a medical student at the University of Santo Tomas, was arrested and jailed in Bilibid prison because of the copies of Noli that were found in his house. Rizal's brother-in-law, Manuel de Hidalgo, husband of Saturnina, was exiled by General Weyler to Bohol without the process of law. After reading the bad news, Rizal felt so sad. Meanwhile, upon reading the good news from home, Rizal felt so relieved. One good news cheered Rizal, and that was Reverend Vicente Garcia's defense of the Nole against the attacks of the friars. Rizal heard this good news from Mariano Ponce. Later, on January 7, 1891, he wrote to Father Garcia expressing his personal message. In London, Rizal had his greatest achievement, the annotation of Morgas' work. He spent many days in the British Museum poring over materials about Philippines, Father Chirinos, Father Collins, Arginsula, and Plasencia. And for Rizal, Dr. Antonio de Morgas Sucesos de las Islas Filipinas was the best. He was so dedicated in his annotation and other studies that he even refused to help edit a newspaper as requested by Mariano Ponce. After a while, Rizal had his short visit to Paris and Spain. Rizal's experience in the place accompanied by Juan Luna and his Luna family, he stayed there for a week to study more historical materials in the Bibliothèque Nationale. On December 11, 1888, he visited Madrid and Barcelona, surveyed political situations regarding the agitation for Philippine reforms. He first met Mariano Ponce and Marcelo H. del Pilar and started to be involved officially in the propaganda movement. After Rizal's short visit to Paris and Spain, finally, Rizal had his Christmas in London. Rizal celebrated Christmas and New Year's Day with the Beckets, his first Christmas on English soil. Rizal reflected on the true meaning of Christmas, not as a mere holiday, but a remarkable day to remember Christ's birth. Rizal's landlady, Mrs. Beckett, knowing of his interest in magic, gave him a Christmas gift, a book entitled The Life and the Adventures of Valentine Fox, the Ventriloquist. In London, Rizal had a romance with Gertrude Beckett. Rizal had a romantic interlude with the eldest of the three Beckett sisters. Gertrude Beckett, or known as Jetty, was a buxom English girl with brown hair, blue eyes, and pink cheeks. She was attracted to Rizal and had always loved to be with him, and our hero, being away from home, in turn found a little inspiration with the English girl. Although he did not pursue his love for Gertrude because he was still in a relationship with Leonor Rivera at that time and would not want to be unfaithful, it was this romantic affair that drove Rizal to Paris in 1889, leaving London for he could marry Gertrude. Rizal's writings in London. Other than annotating Morgan's work, Rizal wrote a lot in London, including articles in La Solidaridad and La Visión del Fray Rodriguez, a counterattack on the irrational criticisms of Fray Rodriguez on Noli. Under the pseudonym Dimas Alang, Rizal satirically attacked Fray Rodriguez for presenting a spirited conversation between the friar and Saint Augustine. It exposed how senseless was Fray Rodriguez's writing and that it deserves punishment. People will find him ridiculous. Rizal also wrote a letter to the women of Malolos. It was written in Tagalog. The Malolos women pursued the establishment of their school despite the opposition of Father Felipe Garcia. Other than his achievement in London, Rizal becomes a leader of Filipinos in Europe. By unanimous vote of all the members, Rizal was chosen honorary president of society called Asociación La Solidaridad, or Solidaridad Association. This was a recognition of his leadership among all Filipino patriots in Europe. Rizal and the La Solidaridad newspaper. On February 15, 1889, Graciano Lopez Haina founded a patriotic newspaper called La Solidaridad in Barcelona, Spain. It was published on March 25, 1889, 6 days after he left London for Paris. Rizal's first article in La Solidaridad was entitled Los Agricultores Filipinos, or the Filipino Farmers. Adios to London. Rizal was forced to leave London because of Gertrude's love for him has turned serious. He could not take advantage of her affection, and she would not be happy because Rizal was in love with Leonor Rivera. He decided to move to Paris so she may forget him. The end. Thank you for watching.